Wrong one. We're just live. I have several brands on here. So yeah, Maria Daniels here with Successfully Chaotic, and today I have Helen Edwards, and I was going to play her intro, but my brain's not working, so I'm going to hit the wrong intro. I'm going to do the spontaneity. So Helen is the host of, is it Crazy Sexy Freedom or just Sexy Freedom? For some reason, I thought there was crazy in there somewhere.
Sexy Freedom Media Podcast.
Okay, well, there you go. So I have not actually even got to listen to your show. That was my goal, to listen to it before today, and it didn't happen. But I do have it. I just actually followed it. I'm going to listen to it later this week when I'm going to be driving. But I did want to jump in and allow you to kind of, number one, tell everybody who you are and a little bit about how you got started in the podcasting world.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks for having me on, Maria and Stacy.
Yeah,
my name's Helen. I guess I'll go into my spiel. My name is Helen Edwards, and I'm here to say I do a wide variety of things all day. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to go with it.
That's great. No,
I'm the author of Nothing Sexier Than Freedom. I also am the host to the Sexy Freedom Media Podcast, a podcast that's based all on the expression of freedom. So it's a big platform with a wide variety of guests because, it's just sharing our experiences, our human experiences per se. And I'm an online business and confidence coach, and I run retreats for women. I also do, I also am a public speaker. I've been speaking since 2008.
Okay, awesome. So we actually this is the first time we've actually formally talked, even though we're both following each other on several things. And I love your vibe. I think, you're super laid back, which I love laid back, and go with the flow, and which I love that too. And real. I love real people. And honestly, that's so hard to find, is real people that are okay being authentic, people that are okay, showing every side of them, not only the glossed over versions of themselves. I love that you're that way. And and that was why I was excited to have you on the show today, because life is crazy, life is chaotic, and life, you've seen it. When I first came on here, I was like, and then I hit the wrong show intro for, that's just part of life. We just go with the flow. And I could stop and be like, oh no, I might as well quit. I didn't do it right or whatever, but that's not how life works, right? It's ups and downs and crazy chaos. And I love that that's very much your vibe as well. I do know that you're an author. And so did your book come before the podcast? Is that how that worked for you?
I think it all kind of started together, if I can remember. Let me see. I've had the podcast. I'm going on my 4th season, but it's actually my 5th year. Okay. I don't even know. I'm horrible with math, everybody. I don't even know how that makes sense, but it does. And then the book came out in I think it was 2018. It got completely published and everything. So yeah, it's kind of, I don't even know how many years that's been, but I started writing almost 6-7 years ago. Started writing the book. It took me about 5 years. And then the business kind of came because of all the things I was doing. I was like, okay, I need to start writing all this off. And so I started the business. It's an umbrella to everything I do now. And now it's just blown up into a brand that I'm kind of finding all over the place, that everybody's like, oh my God, I've heard of the Sexy Freedom brand. I'm like, oh my God, that's crazy.
It's funny how things line up. And I think it's because you put so much of your own personal experiences, your own personality and everything within your brand. And I think that's where a lot of people miss the idea of branding, is because, they think that brand is a logo. They think it's, just this thing, this inanimate object. And really the brand is, the promise behind the logo, is the people behind the logo and the people behind the book, the podcast, or whatever. And I think that is what's so refreshing about your brand. I find it refreshing, just like I said, it's the first time we've even talked, but just watching some of the ways that you interact on social media, I think it is, a great version of showing how you can be super authentic within your brand, that I think so many people think they have to be stuffy and just, you own a business, you have to be uber professional and all buttoned up and, only one way. And, that's not the case, right? You can be your own real, raw, authentic self. And actually you should be. So can you tell everybody, what made you, other than, of course, wanting to write off a lot of the stuff on your taxes and stuff, which is a good reason, but what actually inspired you to want to start to take this journey into the brand, to building a brand?
So it started from exactly where I'm trying to keep it in. It's within the name, the freedom of it. And I think that freedom is a definition for everybody in a different way. For my definition of it, it was the freedom of change, the freedom of constant change, because obviously the only thing constant in life is change. And and throughout your life, like there's so many stages we go through, and as a woman too, the forever changing hormones every week.
Oh, yeah.
I just realized like I was wearing, most people can relate to this. They wear, especially women, we wear many hats. And I just thought, okay, there's a freedom within that. And, the whole idea of like everything you just said, Maria, actually is this idea of like, okay, you should be able to like, surf on the wave of freedom and just go with it and be acceptant to whatever the change is going to be. I mean, you don't have to, which is also, there's a freedom in there's a freedom in resistance, believe it or not. There's a freedom is
Absolutely.
like unbounding, and it's incredible if you can just start to embrace it. And that's what I decided to do. Keep it freedom, keep it real, keep it, vulgar sometimes, sexy sometimes, erotic, raunchy, but also high class, also this, also that. Like it's every corner. It's beautiful.
Absolutely. Well, and I think most people, if they're honest with themselves, we all have multiple sides to our personality, and
Totally.
I think so many times as business owners, especially, I think a lot of people early on feel like they have to just, show up one way. And so I think you're 100% right on the fact that there is freedom in the resistance. And, honestly, that's where this specific show, the Successfully Chaotic show, came from, was, honestly breaking out of my own, like I always say, the mask of perfection. I came from corporate. So when I was in corporate before I started my business, I had to wear this mask of perfection all day long, when in reality, my personal life was a hot freaking mess, like 99% of the time.
Yeah.
And, I had to like shove that away and be like, no, don't look over here, and put on this mask of perfection and show up every single day. And it was not only unrealistic and it wasn't my authentic personality, but it was also very damaging, because I felt like I had to be this person. And it was exhausting to be able to have to show up as this type of person when I didn't feel like it that day, or I had a really shitty day at home and I couldn't, show up the way that I was expected to show up. And I think you said earlier about, people are expected to wear all these hats, and, women primarily are the caretakers at home. Not always. So if you're a man and you're the caretaker, do not write me a bad letter, because I just said primarily. Primarily, it usually falls on the women. And, I have 7 kids. I have 7 children. I have one that's autistic. And so for me, that was a lot of pressure added to all the other things that I was quote unquote supposed to be. So I love that you said that, because it is something that a lot of women are talking about and stepping into their own freedom, on, to be like, yeah, today I feel super uber professional. I'm gonna show up in my suit and be this person, but today I'm staying in my yoga pants and this is who I am. And I think it's okay to be both, right? We all have these layers to our own personality. So when you're talking to, you said you coach women, do you find that a lot of women that you work with, do you feel like there's still this pressure to be something that they're not, or do you feel like it's starting to get a little bit better?
Oh, that's a good question. So I think there's layers, like just like what you said, and we're all on different journeys. So there's definitely like an unlayering of finding out which journey somebody's on. And then there's the personality. What are they dealing with? What's going on in their surroundings? What do they really want? There's so many questions you got to dive in with one person. So when it comes to coaching and working with women, it's different with the one-on-ones versus like group coaching or working at the retreats. When you work at a retreat, you look at just the whole divine intervention of the masculine and feminine parts of a woman. But when you work on them one-on-one, then you get to dive deeper. And I like what you said about, having 7 kids and, being a mom and being at home, taking care of the house. And one of the things you said is, you have a son who's autistic. And I used to work with kids that were autistic for 5 years. And my nephew is also, and I got another nephew who's special needs, and I got an uncle who's schizophrenia. I grew up with the jump in to being introduced to, some mental illness, some special needs. And I was really fascinated by that from the get-go. Like, oh my God, we all don't think the same. Oh my God, our brains have the power to hijack us, to eat themselves, to destroy us, to make us, to create us. There's so much power in the brain. So I became like really attracted to both spirituality and science. And that's a big part of my research when I choose to work with somebody. So it goes a lot deeper.
Oh, and I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I'm in the marketing space. When I say that my professional business is marketing consulting, but I've actually been in the wellness space far longer than that. I've been in the wellness world for 21 years now. And, when my autistic son is 12. So when he first got diagnosed, I always tell people that when you don't know what to do, you do what you know. And I knew nutrition. I was a nutritionist. And I used to be a trainer, but I focused on his nutrition. And so I really started looking into, okay, well, how does the nutrition specifically target the brain? Because I couldn't, quote unquote, cure autism. But what I could do is give his brain the best nutrients it could have to be able to grow the best way that it could. So that's how I ended up approaching things. And I love that you said that you look at the spirituality side, the wellness side, because I think we so often we try to compartmentalize everything and keep it in these separate buckets, which isn't realistic because we're one person, and we have layers, but we can't keep, our business stuff in our business bucket and our home stuff in our home bucket and our wellness stuff in our it doesn't work. They're going to leak over into each other. And I love that you said that you deal with the wellness side and the spirituality side, because it all is intertwined into making us who we are as people, and therefore who we are within whatever space we're in with our career, whether it's business ownership, entrepreneurship, or maybe you work a 9 to 5, whatever the case may be. You can show up as your best self by being able to tap into all those layers. So I love that you're just not hitting it kind of on one angle.
Yes, exactly. Everything you said.
So when do you find that, and I'm asking this question because I probably already know the answer, but I want to hear what your experience have been with it. But do you find that a lot of people, if they're coming to let's say that you're doing a retreat and they're expecting it to be more business related, do you find that they're confused at all when you put wellness into it, or vice versa? If they're coming to a wellness spirituality retreat, do they get confused at all if you're bringing kind of entrepreneurship and stuff into the mix, or do they kind of come to it knowing that it's going to be this layered experience?
Well, they come to it knowing whatever's written in the information, but so I can tell you, so I can tell you that when they do come, to spend time with me or any of the other leadership that are there, this is, especially it's a full immersion, you get to spend time and say, hey, I've got questions. If you're a high ticket coach, especially, or doing business or any type of mindset, any type of coaching at all, this is great for attendees because they get to spend time, they get everything they can, and they actually get more because they get to spend time and pick your brain. So it's actually pretty valuable.
I love that. So you've got a retreat coming up. Is it next year?
Yes, March 24th, 2022. It's a 3-day in Castaic, California, so a little bit north of LA.
Okay. So who is that retreat for? So if somebody's out there right now and they're like, I wonder if this retreat would be for me, who is that person?
Sure. So if you're somebody who's kind of like in a funk, or you're feeling stuck in life, or you're a mom who needs to get away, or somebody who needs to just have a full transformation, this is a really great place for you to go because it's on a ranch, first of all, so it's really cool. I mean, there's outdoor showers, we're going hiking, we're doing yoga. One of the things there's tons and tons of yoga retreats out there to choose from. Trust me, They're a dime a dozen. But here's what makes the difference. The leadership is what makes the difference. I'm pairing up and collaborating with Stephanie Hyde, and she's a coach, a life coach, and I'm a business and confidence coach. But I'm not only that. I'm a yoga instructor, and the type of yoga that I teach at my retreats is tribal. So it's got a native background. So we do a lot of ceremony. I teach you some rituals, and it's very, very deep and immersed in dance. So it's, for me, it's a little bit more on the warrior side. So anytime I pair up with any type of leadership, it's more like a feminine and masculine connection. And if you want to have some fun with that, come check us out.
It sounds like a good excuse to go and have a great time. And you mentioned tax deductible. Girl, if you're a business owner out there right now, this is tax deductible. You go take it. It's to help build your business, and you get to get away from life for a while, check out. That's the reason I love doing business retreats. I mean, I like it for a lot of reasons, but honestly, that's one of them. It's like, I don't have to feel guilty, because again, as women, as moms, we're always feeling guilty for doing things for ourselves. But that, if I do something for my business, even though it's for me too, I don't feel as guilty, because I'm like, well, this is for my business. That's not for me. This is for my business, even though it's totally also for me. So, I really encourage, if you're listening to this on the podcast later, or maybe you're watching the replay, I encourage you to check out Helen Edwards, Sexy Freedom. Now, where's the best place to find out more about that? Is it on your Facebook? Is it Instagram? Like, where should they look?
I'm all over the place. You can Google me and I'll come up. Okay. Yeah. So you can look up sexyfreedom.com. It's like the easiest way. Sexyfreedom.com, or find me on Instagram, Hell of a Journey with 1 L. Yeah, pretty simple. Just Google Helen Edwards.
Hell of a Journey with 1 L. I got it. I get it. I like that. It's good. Now, I think it sounds super exciting, and I love that you combine, all aspects of, the yoga, the spiritual. Like, I teach yoga, but I teach more like Kundalini style yoga. But the tribal yoga sounds completely amazing, and I know a lot of people, if they don't do yoga on a regular basis, or maybe they just like taking it down at the Y, it's not exactly the same thing, and I suggest that you go and you really try to experience something that's outside of the norm, because you would be surprised at not only what you can learn about yourself, but how much you feel just kind of in touch just with the universe at that point. And it's almost like it opens up so much for you. And I mean, it sounds silly to say that, but until you've experienced it. But it does. You're able to go and really just really experience something deeply, and it lays out things in your life so much better for your business, for your personal relationships, for your mental health. You mentioned mental health earlier, and I think that's something that it's really important to do maintenance on a regular basis, even if you don't suffer with any type of a mental health condition. We all are having these stressors on a daily basis, and you have to really give yourself the permission to unplug and really to just be. And I know that's hard if you're a business owner out there right now saying, well, I can't afford to take the time off. And I think that's why it's so important to really tap into, these business retreats and connect with other like-minded people to be able to really experience life the way it's supposed to be experienced, and give your business a one-up, for the next year.
Well, something to think about too is, if it's not really per se about business. I'm a business coach, but you can come and spend time with me. So you get to hang out with me one-on-one. But really, what I like to think about is like this. If you feel called to it, if you feel that nudge inside of you, that spirit talking and saying, you're supposed to be there, find a way to be there. You're supposed to be connected with this person. Now, you can listen to it or not, but if you don't listen to it, it's only going to get louder and it's going to keep knocking. And I like what you said, Maria. You do need to have maintenance. Before I started doing retreats, I was attending retreats, and I decided to start doing retreats because I saw what was missing. I saw the missing link, and I wanted to bring that, to my own retreats. And this is going to be, I think, my 6th or 7th one. So, I'm pretty good at them. I create them myself from beginning to end. I know what I'm doing, and I know that I'm there to lead, and I'm very strong. I like to tell people, I know I'm a queen warrior. So if you need that in your life, you need me to help you bring it out, show up.
I love it. Love it. And I love that you did, mention that even if you're not a business owner, this is for you. And I think that a lot of women, we all have this entrepreneurial spirit inside of us anyway, because we're wearing all the hats. We're able to balance so many things. And, just being able to go, and you mentioned like the warrior inside of you. I think all women have that warrior inside of us, and some of us have been able to tap into it, and some of us need help being able to, kind of coax her out. And I love that. Love that. So as far as your podcast goes, you said you're going into your fourth year, your fifth. You see, you did I don't even know what seasons mean. I don't even understand.
Fourth season, fifth year. It's weird.
Okay. No, I'm going into my fifth season, but I'm only in my second year? I don't even know. I quit even trying to make it. I'm just I don't people are like, how long are your seasons? I'm like, whatever. I'm like, all right, next season. Really, for me, it's like when I'm ready to one up it. When I feel like you mentioned the universe is trying to tell you. I listen to that, and if I feel like I'm kind of at the end of whatever the journey was for that quote unquote season for my podcast, or I've learned, I feel like I'm to the next level, then I'm done with my season. And I know that's probably I'm going to have a lot of professional podcasters that are going, well, that's not how you're supposed to do it. But I always say the same thing. It's my podcast. I pay the bills. I make up my own seasons. So that's how I do it. But I love that you said you're in your fifth year. That's incredible, because a lot of podcasts do not last a year even. Has it been it was a major learning curve for me. I consider myself an accidental quote unquote podcaster, because I had no idea what I was doing.
Right.
Did you kind of know? So you're saying
same thing happened to me. Look, let me tell you something. When I started speaking, it wasn't my idea. When I started doing the podcast, it wasn't my idea. I have a really strong group of women friends who've been friends for almost 20 years, and there's a bunch of us. So we're kind of this tribal group, and it's always somebody going, we should do this. And I was like, yeah. And I'm very much the type of person that if I say I'm going to do it, I do it, and if you back out, I got to do it. It's just a thing in me, and I think that's what makes me so much of a make moves, don't think about it, be about it. And so that's how I got into podcasting. I started doing it with a friend, and next, she kind of dwindled out, and here I am. I mean, I thought about quitting all the time, but I was like, okay, there's a freedom in this. There's something in it for me. And just recently I put out a post about asking for a co-host, because, now I want to, when you do so many things, you kind of want to share the platform at some point, because it's okay, I'm not getting the fulfillment I once got out of it. I want to start sharing what the success. So yeah, I got a few interviews today for a couple co-hosts that are possible for, but
that's exciting. Yeah, that's exciting. I don't have a co-host for this podcast. I've considered it. I do have a couple of other shows that I do have co-hosts on, and I'll be honest, I get more enjoyment out of the ones with my because you know how it is. It's like an energy thing, and even if you're not in the same room, you're still feeding off each other. There's just more energy. And let's be honest, there's some days I don't want to do it. We all have those days where I don't want to do a show. I don't want to do a show. So at that point in time, it's going to be very rare you're co-host and you are not going to want to do it at the same time. So then you have somebody else that can kind of be the primary. I've thought about it for this show. Yeah. I haven't done it yet, but it's literally been in the back of my mind, because I have found that how much I love my shows that I have co-hosts, and we get along together, and we come up with so many ideas together, and it's just been it's been an amazing. I actually think you'll really enjoy having a co-host. I mean, it's the same thing.
I used to have one. Did you? One, yeah, I had two actually, but again, they were friends of mine. And the thing with friends is they can jump in and jump out whenever they want, and they'll still be your friend, which is amazing. Yeah. But on a business level, right? They're like, girl, I'm coming on, but for me as a businesswoman, having my business, watching it grow and expand, it comes a time when you're like, okay, I'm now looking at this from a business angle. I want this podcast to go further. How do I make it go further? I'm already stretching myself thin, so I need help. I've got some hired help already, and I'm learning. This is the first year that I've actually hired help and, been able to say, okay, now we're expanding more. And this allows me to free up some time and to also delegate. And the one thing about being a good leader is you got to have delegating skills. So I'm really starting to learn how to delegate more.
And I think that's a big thing. And I have no problem delegating now. I used to. Now I'm like, you can do this. You can do this. I can't do this. Well, even with my podcast, though, that was something I knew early on, that I am not an editor. I have no skills at editing. I don't have the desire to have skills at editing. I watched, I think, like part of a YouTube video because I was like, I'm going to learn this because I am very much the independent. I can do this myself person. And I watched like, how it was like a 3-hour, like quote unquote training. And like, I'm watching, I'm like halfway through. I'm like, I have absorbed zero of this. Like, it's like going in one ear and coming out the other because my brain was like, nope, we don't care. So at that moment, I just stopped it and I was like, you know what? I'm delegating this because.
You're talking about the editing of the podcast?
Yes. No. I do not do it.
That's one thing about Sexy Freedom Media is I don't do any editing. That was one of the agreements I made myself when I first began. Okay, when I say I don't do any, I do like slight ones for the beginning, start, and the end.
That's all we do.
Yeah, because you know, for mine, I wanted to keep it raw and real. That's the two words that I always wanted to keep. Unless there's some major, you know, issues with it, like a freeze or something.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, I do editing for like for different videos, which is cool. And that's a hobby. I don't offer it a service, but I do all my own graphics and video editing, and I enjoy it. So. No problem there.
Congratulations. Yeah, I do not. That's not something that like
to me. I don't know why. I never thought I'd be a techie person. It's crazy. Never thought.
We all have different things we like. That's funny. No, I mean, and I'm the same way. Like, yeah, when I say editing for my stuff, we do the same way. I actually, I mean, there's been people that's like, you should edit more. But I don't, because I don't take out the ums and the ahs because I say them all the time, you know, and the only thing that we do is we usually add in the intros and the outros. And there's been very few times, like you said, there'll be something that really messes up, like a squeal or whatever. But honestly, most of the time, unless it's like really bad, we just leave that in there too, because I mean, well, obviously we're live right now. So the live version is up anyway. So it's like, I don't even care. I don't even spend the time to do that. But it's funny how you figure out as you kind of go through, you figure out the things that you need to do, delegate, delete, right? I like to live by that motto, do, delegate, delete, because if not, I come up with all the ideas. And it seems like you're probably a lot like me on this. It's like, I have ideas all the time. Like, ooh, that would be great.
Yeah.
Ooh, that would be fun. Yeah. And if you don't have that delegating skill, you will overwhelm yourself in a hurry. And I tend to do that on a regular basis anyway. It's like I fall off the wagon all the time. I'm like, I know that I don't need to overdo it. And I have this pep talk with myself, like, Maria, you're doing too much. And then Maria does it anyway. And then I'm like over in the corner crying because like I'm done and overwhelmed. And I look at my schedule and I was like, oh, you did it again. You didn't delegate enough, or you didn't delete enough, or you said yes to too many things.
Sure.
So, and I think that's a good, you know, reason to be in check with yourself all the time, is because it's so easy for it to happen. And, you know, things like going to retreats, but even if you're not even going on a retreat, you know, speaking with somebody that's like-minded, that understands, not because they're perfect and they have it all together, but because they're there on a regular basis. And I think, I think that is so important when, you know, somebody is looking to find a coach, is to be able to find somebody that they vibe with, because most people don't want perfect people. They want people that understand because they've been there. So when you're coaching women, is it something that you do in a group, or is it something that you do one-on-one, or both?
So right now I'm actually in the current, currently in a group coaching program where I'm teaching, I'm coaching in a group. That's done online. It's I think there's 2 more weeks left of that. So that's more of like a small offer I do, but the one-on-ones, they go a little more intense. And one of the things you'll find is, you know, the coaching world is something else, I'll tell you that. And I never wanted to get into coaching, never. I was so against it. I was so like, nah, it's not me. You know, I'd rather drink at the bar. You know, just I was like, everybody was always asking me to coach them, and I was always like referring them out to somebody else, and everybody said, you know, well, why don't you coach? And to be honest, like 100% is because I said I like to drink too much. I like to just like drink, you know. Sometimes I thought that was a stipulation that you can't coach. So, and when I say too much, I'm not a drinking person every day. Like I got rules, but what I
Yeah.
mean is like, I'm loud, I get wild, and I didn't want to be judged on that in a leadership role. But I realized, there was what happened, how I got in coaching was somebody came to me and they said, I want you to coach me. And then I tried to do the same thing and pawn them off to somebody else. And they said, no, I want you to coach me. So that was my step into coaching. Since then, I've coached many clients and I've learned there is this, think of coaching like fishermen, they try to put the bait out and they try to
Yeah.
put you in. There's a lot of sales and marketing into it. And that's something that I was like, I'm free. I live the life of freedom already. I can go and please travel as I want. I don't need to do, hook and bait, catch and bait or whatever it's called. I don't need to trick nobody for me to be their coach. So I really believe, just like I said at the beginning, if you feel called to work with me, act on that, reach out. That's how
Yeah.
I get my clients. They come to me or I reach out and try to talk to them. But I'm not into sales and marketing for coaching at all. I do sales and marketing with my business in other areas. But when it comes to coaching, I feel like when
I
you work
agree.
with me, I'm going to learn about your life. I'm going to talk to you. It's a sacred and safe space. To me, that is, it's just so special to me because I know what it's like to be somebody who's hurt and crushed. And I do not want to use your hurt and crushed to push myself up. That's just not the way I do things. I'm not saying
No.
all coaches do that. I'm just saying I won't do
Well,
that. I don't
there's
do that.
some. I mean, there's some, but I mean, I think that's the beauty of it. I love that you shared that you thought you couldn't be a coach because you like to go party and have a good time or whatever. But honestly, there's a lot of people out there that's what they want, that real person, that person that's like, yeah, I can do business, but I can go having a good time after hours. And I think that's the beauty of coaching, and is that it is a very personal, it's a relationship, honestly. It's a
It is a
relationship.
relationship.
And I'm like you, I don't even like, actually, I'm not coaching anybody right now because I've decided that I cannot take that on. But I am very, very, very finicky on if and who and when I coach anymore. And because it is very personal, like I said, but it's also, you are giving so much of yourself that you have to be honest with yourself. Do you have it to give at the moment? Because, and right now I do not. I am like burning the candle at both ends and in between again right now.
Sure.
And, I think that it's very important when, like, I have a coach, right? I have a coach. And I always say that, coaches have coaches, consultants have consultants if they know what they're doing. Because as a coach, that you need that. And sometimes you're feeding others, and sometimes you have to say no and you have to be fed. And I think that's so important to really be honest with yourself and tap into, again, all the layers of yourself to be able to figure out, is this, number one, a good fit for me and this person, that's wanting me to coach, and is it the right timing? And is it something that I can physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally even handle right now? Because it is very taxing. And I think that those are good things to ask if you're thinking about coaching somebody. And if you're looking for a coach, because, I always tell people, if you think that you need a coach, you need a coach. If you're wondering, do I need a coach? You need a coach. Because, a coach is going to be there to be honest with you, to tell you that, you need to do things this way, less of this and more of that. And, you may go through several coaches before you find that fit. And I think that's what's so important about, your story, is that, your right people, they're not going to be the same as my right people, and they're not going to be the same as somebody else's right people. And that's the beauty of it. It's just like a relationship.
Yes, definitely. And you want to make sure, if you're out there looking for a coach, really see who the person is, what their experience is, and like what you're saying, all coaches have some type of coach or consultant. I've never had a coach. I'm gonna be honest. I've had a spiritual mentor, and that
That's like a coach
mentor to
now.
me was my mother. My mother is a
Yeah.
very strong warrior feminist, and I learned so much from her. And that was my introduction into self-improvement. After that,
Yeah.
I mean, I've been to I've crewed Tony Robbins. I've worked inside the Tony Robbins thing. I think it was like I've been to 5 events already. I took my son there when he was 12, life-changing for him. I'm big on life experience. I created all my own speaking events, all of them. My last one was in Vegas in 2020. So I think the thing is, you want to find somebody who's also continuing to do the work on themselves. Like, I'm not out here saying, oh, I don't need a coach or nothing like that. I'm saying I am continually doing the work on myself, because like everything you just said, Maria, like you've got to have, if you're pausing from coaching, you've got to have that time to really replenish yourself as a person in that role, because it does take a lot of your energy and focus and effort to push somebody up or lift them up or pull them up. Yeah, you got to have that mental strength.
Absolutely. And I do want to go back to what you said about, when I think of coach, that doesn't always mean money's exchanging hands. My first coaches, I didn't pay them. They were friends of mine, but they literally drug me out of like despair, so they very much went through the same coaching process, and it wasn't a financial exchange of money, but we did barter some things out. And I think that's important to note, because when I say that, consultants have consultants and coaches have coaches, that doesn't always mean you realized that you needed to hire somebody in, or you had the financial means at that moment to hire, somebody in, because sometimes, especially at the very beginning, you don't. But what that means is that you realize that it couldn't just be you. You realize that you had to glean knowledge and gain experience from other people who had walked a similar walk and could show you where the pitfalls were and where the potholes were, and try to keep you from falling on your face over and over and over. Because those people, even if they don't carry the title as coach professionally, they're coaches, they're mentors. They can be your best friend. They can be a family member. It can be another business owner, whatever the case may be. It's just finding that person that is there for you, can help guide you. I think that I love that you said that, because I don't want people to take that the wrong way, because, most people did not start out having the money to be able to afford a coach.
Yeah, but let's talk about that for a second. So, okay, not having the money. I do remember when I first started everything that I was doing, and I had a very poor mindset when it comes to money. My relationship with money was horrendous, okay? And I remember thinking, well, I don't have the money. How do I invest in myself? I started with reading a Zig Ziglar book, and, I realized that energy and money, for me anyways, this is my view, it started to become the same thing. And I had to shift my perspective on that. And I do believe 100,000% that when you invest in yourself, whether that's energy, but I'm going to say money's a big, big investment, that when you put it in yourself, it does come back to you. And I remember thinking in the very beginning, years ago, 16 years ago, when I started this journey, or I think like 17 years ago now, I was like, dang, I don't have the money, but I was like, I'm going to find the money. I worked and hustled to get the money. I didn't care where I sold clothes, because I shifted my perspective. I said, okay, I don't have money, but yeah, I got shoes, I got clothes I don't even wear that I don't need. I need to go sell those on Craigslist. I need to go sell those in a yard sale. And that's what me and one of my best friends did. We sold all our stuff at a yard sale. We took that money and we went and paid for a seminar. And that's what started our journey into learning and investing. Because if you want more money, you need to invest that money into yourself to get more money.
I 100% agree with you. I love that. And I've been involved with Dean Graciazzi and Tony Robbins, and they do talk a lot about investing into yourself and the dollars. And I love that you said that, because it's so true and so important. You could have taken that money and just gone and bought the newest, latest shoes or the newest, latest clothes, and you would have not upped your life at any point in time. You would have just had the new shoes and the new clothes. But instead, you decided to take that and invest it in yourself. And I think that's so true, whether it's something that you're, taking that's going to give you more education or more experience, or you're feeding into your own wellness or whatever. I think it's very important. I know there's that meme and that saying that floats around all over the place that says you can't pour from an empty cup. And I use that quote a lot, because I seen it for years, and I'm like, yeah, you can't pour from an empty cup, and it's not, I'd share it. But I never really thought about what does that actually mean. I was an empty freaking cup, and I'm going, yeah, you can't pour from an empty cup. Fill that cup, girl, as I'm sitting there all like empty as hell, and I think a lot of people don't take the time to stop and think, what does it actually mean? How am I empty? Why am I empty? And what is going to help fill me? And a lot of that is going to be taking those steps to invest in yourself, whether it's just, taking the time to say, okay, you know what? I'm taking a break. I am saying no this weekend, and I am having a weekend of just doing things that feel good to me. Or it's saying, you know what? I'm going to take my money that I could spend on something else, and I'm going to invest in some type of education. Or I'm going to take the time and really think about meal planning for the week, because I know it's going to make me feel better, and it's going to make me not have to think about what am I eating every single day. Whatever the case may be, I think it's so important to think about that statement. And I like to mention that just because there's a lot of sayings out there that I think so many women, we realize it, we recognize it, we share it. We're like, yeah, we heard it and all the things. And yeah, girl, you go. But we don't actually stop to think about how does that actually apply to our life? Are we filling ourselves up? Do we feel empty and broken? Because if you're honest with yourself, I'd say a lot of times you still feel empty. I know these things now, and I do a really good job about 80% of the time on making sure that I'm filled. But I find myself off on the side of the road again, like, how the heck did I end up here? And it's because, we get so busy with the day to day and, saying yes to this and saying yes to that, and, doing all the things that we think we quote unquote have to do, need to do, that we don't take enough time to stop and say, okay, what do I really need to do for me?
Yes, well said, bravo. That was great.
So, well,
I'm always like taking it in. I'm like, dang, everything she said was so good. I like, honestly, while you were talking, I was like, I just want to, like, whoa, girl, yeah. It's like, I just want to.
Well, and then it's because I'm sure you've been there, and I'm sure that every woman or a man out there has had those moments where they felt like that too. And I think that's why it's so important to really think about, programs like you have, where you do offer that real, authentic, because like I said, I've seen your stuff, and you're not out there saying, I have it all together, I've done everything great. I hate it when I'm going to get bad letters, but that's fine. I hate it when I see some of these, I push the line a lot, but I hate it when I see some of these things. It's like, well, I did this, and then I did that, and then I did this, and then I did that. And I'm like, it's just like, and that's great, but they're never showing the real side of them. They're never showing the side of them where, like you mentioned earlier, you're like, I didn't want to coach because I thought I couldn't. That's authentic. That's raw. That's real.
But the thing about, okay, so what you just said, I've had that conversation a few times with myself with, the profiles of having it all together. And sometimes I'll get a lot of friend requests from a lot of business people, and I'll go to their page and I'll see it's just business. Oh, yeah. And I'll be like, okay, maybe we're on the same team or something, maybe I'll like their feed. I click, I look at their pictures, still the same thing, never heard from them, whatever. It's like, okay, what do you want? But I think a lot of people get overwhelmed with social media because of that reason, that there's this facade of like, I got it all together, and but I want to say this hard but here. Let's start to twerk it, guys. When, for me, the conversation I've had with myself is, why am I getting upset about that? This is just for me. This is the conversation.
No. I love it.
Why am I getting upset with that? They're actually getting clients. It's called sales and marketing, people. Like, look, if I don't like it, I just shut it down. I stop looking.
Absolutely.
I unfriend people. That has got nothing to do with who this person is. If I just don't like it, take away the most powerful thing that you can give them, which is your intention, or your attention. Boom. Yeah. Cut it off, move on. And because this is why, because your energy is it's priceless. Your energy is a God-given gift. I'll tell you that. And for me, I believe in protecting my throne, protecting my mind, body, and spirit. So if my energy is all of a sudden sucked down into, this, I like to call it, being a hater. Sometimes I get like that. I'm like, oh man, and I'm just like, whoa, girlfriend, calm down. Like, these are conversations I have.
Oh yeah.
myself, girlfriend, calm down. Like, why are you over here hating? Like, just, if you don't like it, move on. Like, there's plenty of other posts to look at. And that's just how I do for myself. So it goes both ways. And that goes full circle to the freedom, back to the freedom of what they're doing and what I'm doing.
I love that. I think it's perfect. And I have to have those because I'll find myself on Instagram sometimes and I'm like, oh my gosh, look at their house. Their kids look so clean all the time. My kids, they look clean sometimes. And sometimes it looks like they have no mother, and I'm over here. Again, that's me. That's not anything to do because it's, I thought, a lot of this is like, oh, my kids look cute today. I want to take a picture. I want to have this a record that sometimes that they can look like this. They don't look like, they're feral. So I get it, but I think it's so often I find myself scrolling. I have to have those conversations with myself to go, they probably look feral sometimes too. I'm sure that's the clean corner of their house too, because how it is. It's like we tend to like overanalyze everything that's going on in other people's lives. And I think for me, I had decided, like, if you listen to my podcast, especially early on, I was, especially season 1, I was super real and raw. And I've actually had people say, wow, you told like it all. And there was a reason I did that. It was almost like for me, I had to take that giant leap head first because I was so used to wearing this mask that if I didn't jump head first and like tell all my dirty secrets, then I was never going to. And I think I like that you said that for you have to have these conversations with yourself, because I think that's the most important thing to realize, as not only as a business owner and a podcaster, as a woman, but just as a human, that we all have these internal conversations with ourselves all the time. And if we're quiet enough sometimes to listen, we know what we really need. We really do.
Yeah.
And it's just the question is, what do we like? How do we need to pep talk ourselves to get us to kind of take that jump?
Yeah. And I like what you said, Maria, about putting it all out there, because that's kind of what I did in my book, Nothing Sexier Than Freedom. Once you just put it all out there, I mean, there's a freedom in that, because then nobody can judge you, because you're like, oh yeah, I already told everybody about that. Who cares? I don't care.
Exactly. Exactly. It is. That was probably the most, I would say probably the most terrifying and yet the most freeing thing ever, because I'll be honest, I put it out there and I almost took it down. I don't know how many times, because, it was like, it's out there and they're like, because it's like, all of a sudden it's like the mask is off. They realize I don't have it all together. They realize I'm a hot mess, like a real hot mess. And it was terrifying, but and it was really terrifying as I watched that people were listening. I'm like, oh my God, people are listening. And then my mom calls and she's like, Maria, that's on iTunes. I'm like, I know, Mom, I put it on iTunes. And, but at that moment, you said exactly what I was thinking. I was like, you know what? I don't have to worry about it anymore. There's no hiding that stain, right? There's no hiding it. It's out there. I don't have to worry about it anymore. People know. Who cares? I already said it.
You want to know something? This is crazy. So on the same topic, so I wrote this book, and it's about like my beginning life to probably, I want to say 35. I think I stopped writing at 35. I'm now 41. Okay. So my life has drastically changed in some great positive ways and habits. So I'm dishing my life. This is where it gets strange for me. I can meet people who've read my book or, got my book, and I don't know this at first. I just get, oh, hi, I'm Helen. Oh, I know who you are. Oh, okay, great. Yeah. Podcast. Because you forget I forget sometimes I wrote a book. And they'll be like, I read your book. And you're like, oh, cool. So you're sitting there having coffee with a whole group of people, telling everybody who you are, because, you're just meeting and trying to connect. And they're like, this is so weird. I already know all this. I've had it happen numerous times where they're like, whoa, like they're blown away because I'm the author of a book they're reading or have read is sitting in front of them, repeating something they already know about. It is so crazy.
I would say that would be weird on your end too, because you're like, because you don't know anything about them.
Exactly.
Because they could be like, oh yeah, and then you did this, and then you said that, and I'd say that would be super awkward.
And I can't even overthink it, because let me tell you, a lot of people, I don't know what people's perception is, but sometimes I wonder if they think it's like this self-help book. because of the title, I want to learn how to be sexy freedom. That's great. But a lot of the book has adult erotic scenes in it. I mean, my sex life is in here. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's part of being free though, right?
Description, nipples and all. Okay.
Yeah.
And
everybody's got nipples, so it's okay.
Yeah. And I often wonder, like, do they meet me and all of a sudden that sex scene pops up and they can I'm
Probably.
just like, oh man.
I haven't read your book, but that was one of the things I got it on. Everybody that I end up interviewing, I end up buying their book because I like to do that. I like to buy it and read it. And so now, just so you know, just so you don't have to wonder, I am one of those people. When somebody says something, I imagine the picture. So yes, your nipples will be in my brain, and it is what it is. So.
They're hot nipples, I'm just saying.
There you go. So yeah, now you won't be wondering because that's how my brain is. I think
that's what everybody's gonna take away today. Everybody's gonna be like, yeah, great podcast. I gotta find out what her nipples look like.
Yeah. Well, the way that you do that apparently is you need to go buy the book, read that chapter, use your imagination, and then you'll know.
Chapters.
So about the book though, that because I know I feel like we could talk for like days at this point, but sure. I do want to ask, is it the best place to go to buy your book on your website, the Sexy Freedom website, or?
So you can get the book on Amazon or Barnes and Nobles right now. Okay. It's in the process of getting a narrator to do the audiobook version.
You want to do the narration.
I decided to find a narrator, to be honest, just because my plate is full and I'm actually in the process of writing another book right now. Yeah, and I got to start focusing on this other book. So
I understand.
Yeah, I understand. So Barnes and Noble's online, Amazon.com, or you guys know Amazon.
Yeah, Amazon. Me and Amazon are good friends, much to my husband's dismay.
Yeah, if you want a signed copy, just reach out to me on Sexy Freedom Media on the Facebook page or even Instagram, DM me. I'll just get your address and send you a signed copy. So we can do
awesome. Yeah, and I'll buy a signed copy from you just so I have it for my collection of signed copies. Sweet. But I do want to say thank you so much for being on here. It's been a blast, and I'd like to have you again on sometime, like maybe after your retreat or right before your retreat or whatever you would like to do, just to kind of find out more about that again as it gets closer, because a lot of people are like me and they're like, oh yeah, I totally want to do that, and then months go by and they forget it even existed. When is the cutoff for sign up?
So it's in March, so probably February. You want to jump on and get on, because of we're trying to keep it safe. We want everybody sign up soon, because the cutoff, we're only allowing about 15 attendees on this one. Okay.
Yeah, that's good anyway. That's a good number, because then you get more kind of one-on-one time and it's more intimate. Love it. So all right, well, thank you so much for being on. It has been a blast, and I will see you next time.
Yeah, thanks so much, everybody.
All right, see y'all.